Here are the top stories for today, June 16, 2021. The Health Department reports a decline in the number of deaths due to COVID-19. Several lawmakers and senator bats for the easing of quarantine protocols among returning OFWs. Malacanang assures fair vaccine distribution in the country, including Mindanao. And the Commission on Human Rights wants the New People Army to pay for all the crimes it has committed. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. COVID-19 deaths in the country continue to decline. In an online media briefing, DOH Epidemiology OIC Director Althea de Guzman said the mortality curve peaked in April and went down in May.
We have reported already 720 deaths. We're halfway through the month. No? This is much less than the 3,000 na nire-report natin or na-report natin ng Mayo. But we want to push it down even more.
But while the number of deaths decline, active cases are up in some areas. As of June 14, the top 5 regions with the most number of new cases include Calabarzon, NCR, Region 6, Region 3, and Region 11. Meanwhile, the top 5 areas with the most number of new cases are Laguna, Davao City, Batangas, Cavite, and South Cotabato. To address the increase in cases in areas with recorded surges, the DOH has recommended granular lockdowns following standard protocols. Senator Richard Gordon is proposing less stringent protocols for fully vaccinated OFWs and returning Filipinos. He proposed home quarantine for a period of 7 days and then get tested for COVID-19 on the 5th to the 7th day. Gordon said such a proposal is still stricter than what is being practiced in other countries, such as the United States, wherein fully vaccinated air travelers are only required to have a negative test result before they board a flight. He said fully vaccinated travelers in the United States are also not required to undergo self-quarantine following international travel. ACT-CIS Representative Nina Taduran is also in favor of relaxing the protocol for returning Filipinos. She said returning Pinoys who are fully vaccinated have a very low risk of contracting and spreading the virus, as most of them have a limited time of staying in the country. For ang Provinciano Party List Representative Ronnie Ong, a properly authenticated proof of vaccination should be enough to ease the quarantine protocols. He also proposed to ease cross-border travel for people who have already completed their COVID-19 vaccines. Deputy Speaker Rufus Rodriguez claims that the national government has neglected Mindanao in its COVID-19 response. Rodriguez hit vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. for his supposed lack of priority in addressing the uptick in COVID-19 cases in Mindanao. He said his letter of request for an additional supply of COVID-19 vaccines for his constituents in Cagayan de Oro and other parts of the region was ignored. Meanwhile, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque disputed Deputy Speaker Rufus Rodriguez's claims. He said around 38% of the country's vaccine supply was distributed to Metro Manila and surrounding areas, while the remaining jabs are delivered to the rest of the country. He also assured that the national government prioritizes vaccine distribution in areas with high number of cases. Local officials in Negros Oriental urge residents to strictly adhere to the modified enhanced community quarantine protocols. The details from Marita Moahe.
Negros Oriental officials leading the fight against COVID-19 urged residents to cooperate with authorities and adhere to the modified enhanced community quarantine protocols. The MECQ was imposed as the province continues to cope with the surge in COVID-19 cases. And while health authorities named Negros Oriental as the epicenter in Central Visayas, the Octa research team has tagged its Dumaguete City as extremely high risk for COVID-19. As such, Governor Roel Degamo requested vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. for more doses of vaccines. The province has so far received 41,124 doses of Sinovac and AstraZeneca vaccines. Meanwhile, the province of Negros Occidental will hold a simultaneous rollout of the COVID-19 vaccination program in all of its 31 local government units tomorrow, June 17 until June 18. This as the Provincial Health Office received an additional 6,400 vials of Sinovac jabs from the national government. Each LGU will be given an allocation based on the population of the A1, A2, and A3 priority sectors. The vaccine supply will be delivered by ambulance units only on the day of the rollout, and all doses should be administered on the same day. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
Meanwhile, doctors in the Bicol region urge the IATF to place the provinces of Albay, Camarines Sur, and Sorsogon under ECQ. The Philippine Medical Association and Philippine College of Physicians in the region appealed to the Department of the Interior and local government to intercede in upgrading the quarantine classification in these areas where the spike in cases has been alarming. They described the current COVID-19 situation in Bicol as untenable since it has a minimal number of referral hospitals. They said all three major referral hospitals are running out of beds and are operating at 100% utilization of their COVID-19 ICU and isolation beds. There is also a high infection rate among health workers and frontliners. The group said that if the situation is not addressed, Bicol may not be far from what is happening in India. The Japanese government will donate the AstraZeneca vaccines to the Philippines. In a Twitter post, Japan Ambassador to Manila Koshikawa Kazuhiko said the jabs will be delivered to the country as soon as possible. Kazuhiko stressed that no one should be left behind during this pandemic. The Japanese embassy in Manila said the vaccine donation were manufactured in Japan and is part of its commitment to assist the member states of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. In our world news, nearly 2.42 billion doses of coronavirus vaccines have been given worldwide so far. In these figures compiled by Our World in Data, China leads the global count with more than 904 million jabs, followed by the United States, India, Brazil, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Italy, and Mexico. The country with the most doses administered by population is the United Arab Emirates, with 140 doses per 100 people. Most COVID-19 vaccines are administered in 2 doses, so the number of shots given is not the same as the number of individuals fully vaccinated. Meanwhile, the US, India, and Brazil remain the worst-hit countries. Still to come, measures are in place to ease traffic buildup and long queues at the EDSA busway stations. And the Education Department says it will clarify first with the Department of Health if face-to-face classes will be allowed this incoming school year. More on these when the PNA Newsroom returns. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic, because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. The Department of Transportation and the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board come up with measures to address the long lines at the EDSA busway stations. The DOTR and the LTFRB said there were unusual circumstances that led to the event, such as the heavy rain, 7 vehicular accidents, and 2 stalled vehicular incidents, which contributed to the unusual traffic buildup and affected the turnaround of EDSA busway units. To avoid similar incidents in the future, DOTR Secretary Arthur Tugade has ordered a review of the present free ride program, especially during rush hour. More minibus loops will also be opened so that buses can maneuver immediately and fetch passengers. The Department of Education, or DepEd, said it would consult the Interagency Task Force and the Department of Health on the possible resumption of face-to-face classes following the detection of the Delta variant of SARS-CoV-2, the causative agent of COVID-19. Education Secretary Leonor Briones said President Rodrigo Duterte wants assurance that learners are safe, and he is looking forward to the full vaccination of children. Briones was reacting to the call for the safe reopening of schools as an urgent priority by the World Health Organization and UNICEF. Briones assured the public that classes will continue and no learner will be left behind as far as education is concerned. However, if the Delta variant is difficult to control, the DepEd would use technology and not face-to-face classes to deliver classes for the upcoming school year. For the school year 2020 to 2021, which opened in October 2020, the DepEd conducted classes through online, modular learning, TV and radio-based instruction, and blended learning. Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua made his own assessment of the registration phase of the PhilSys National Identification System, calling it quite good. This after 35.2 million, or more than half of the 70 million target individuals for this year, have completed the Step 1 sign-up. Chua also said some 1.59 million individuals registered online from April 30 to May 24. He said the registration process is ongoing in 23 of the 37 provinces nationwide. For Step 2, which involves the capturing of biometrics and the opening of bank accounts, Chua said they have reached 64.7% of their June 2021 target as of May 24. Chua said the national ID is aimed, among others, to increase financial inclusion in the country. He said some 3.4 million bank accounts have been opened so far since PhilSys registration started. The Department of Justice assured that the country's justice system remains robust, functional, and competent even in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. In a taped statement delivered to the United Nations Joint Program on Human Rights on Sunday, Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara reiterated the commitment he made in June 2020 for a comprehensive review of human rights cases. The preliminary report with initial findings was submitted to President Rodrigo Duterte late last year. The DOJ said it observed deviations by wayward law enforcers from standard protocols during operations and in the processing of crime scenes. The interagency panel has worked with the Philippine National Police to ensure that disciplining authority implement recommendations for administrative and criminal actions. The DOJ also cited ongoing cases involving accountability in human rights cases. The government is likewise looking after the welfare of persons deprived of liberty and other vulnerable sectors amid the pandemic. The Supreme Court awarded damages worth more than 1 billion pesos to the Philippine government as it affirmed the decision of the Sandigan Bayan against the late Marcos crony Herminio Dicini. This is in connection with anomalies in the mothballed Bataan Nuclear Power Plant, or BNPP. Dicini brokered the $2.2 billion BNPP project to American nuclear power company Westinghouse Electrical Corporation. The BNPP project began in 1976 in Morong, Bataan. Safety concerns and corruption allegations led to the shelving of operations after its completion in 1984. The Sandigan Bayan dismissed the government's claims for damages in April 2012 for not being established by preponderance of evidence. On the other hand, the High Court held Dicini liable for exerting undue influence in the awarding of the BNPP project by taking advantage of his close association with former President Ferdinand Marcos. It said the evidence of the government proved that Dicini had unduly enriched himself at the expense of the people and the Republic. Up next, the Commission on Human Rights wants the NPA to pay for all the crimes it has committed. And over 4,000 kids in Aurora benefit from the milk feeding program of the government. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders. You're still tuned into the PNA Newsroom. The Commission on Human Rights maintains that the New People's Army is accountable and must answer for all the crimes it has committed. In a social media post, CHR Chair Jose Luis Martin Gaston said, beyond owning responsibility, offering indemnity, and promising an investigation, the NPA should also identify all those responsible and have them face justice within the court system. Moreover, the CPP-NPA should be held accountable for all other crimes they have perpetrated in the past in violation of international humanitarian and human rights law. He said the NPA should not harbor the perpetrators and should halt attacks on non-combatants and non-military targets. Gascon's post refers to the June 6 attack of the NPA, resulting in the deaths of Far Eastern University football player Keith Absalon and his 40-year-old cousin Nolven in Barangay Anas, Masbate City. The Absalon cousins were thought to have been killed in an anti-personnel mine explosion, but further investigation revealed that Nolven and Keith were shot dead. A palace official meanwhile maintained that anti-personnel mines destroy life, communities, and nations, particularly if used by a terrorist group. Presidential Human Rights Committee Secretariat Executive Director Undersecretary Severo Cotura said the use of landmines is a violation of international humanitarian law. He said Communist Party of the Philippines founding chair Jose Maria Sison is in the Netherlands continuously orchestrating the NPA to persist violence in the Philippines. He said the deaths of the Absalon should have made European states realize how they have been used to provide sanctuary to a person that enables, advocates, and defends terror groups. Far Eastern University football player Keith Absalon and his cousin Nolven were shot dead shortly after they were severely wounded by anti-personnel mines detonated by the New People's Army in Masbate on June 6. Southern Luzon Command Chief Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade Jr. said this is based on statements of the 4 other survivors who witnessed firsthand the brutal attack against Keith and Nolven. He said the NPA finished Keith off with a gunshot in the eye even as he begged for mercy, while Nolven was shot 3 times while he was sprawled on the ground. Parlade said the NPAs who attacked and killed the Absalon cousins are being sheltered in Barangay Anas and Bolo. He revealed that the recovered anti-personnel mines in Camarines Sur, Sorsogon, and Masbate are identical and crudely made but lethal. Due to these horrific weapons, Parlade said there are already 12 civilian casualties in Masbate alone, with 4 dead, including Keith and Nolven. A town in Basilan vowed support for the Small Arms and Light Weapons program that seeks to lessen, if not eradicate, the proliferation of loose firearms in the province. 101st Infantry Brigade Commander Brigadier General Domingo gov't confirmed that officials of Haji Muhammad town expressed their commitment to the implementation of the program. gov't said municipal officials turned over 11 high-powered firearms after the signing held Monday at the Area Coordination Center of Barangay Tausan. The SALW program is implemented through the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, or OPAP, and in partnership with the provincial government, Joint Task Force Basilan, and the Philippine National Police. Other towns that back the program are Haji Mohammed Taadchul, Tabuan Lasa, Lantawan, Akbar, Tipo-Tipo, Maluso, and Tuburan. Residents of the Caraga region received more than 10.3 million pesos worth of goods and pandemic essentials distributed by the Philippine National Police during a series of Barangayanihan Health and Food Bank activities. Police Regional Office 13 Director Brigadier General Romeo Karamat Jr. said the goods and essentials were distributed from April 23 to June 12. He said Caraga Police conducted nearly 5,000 barangayanihan activities that reached over 230,000 Caragonons. He thanked the partnership and support provided by the different stakeholders, including the private sector in the region, that made the activity successful. The barangayanihan activities are among the COVID-19 response of the government amid the continuing threat of the pandemic. Karamat said, while working in anti-criminality and anti-terrorism campaigns, police in the region also carry out their moral obligation to extend help during a health crisis. Over 4,500 undernourished children in the province of Aurora are now benefiting from the nationwide school-based milk feeding program. Dr. Ronnie Domingo, OIC Executive Director of the Department of Agriculture Philippine Carabao Center, said the school's division office of Aurora has begun to distribute sterilized canned milk to beneficiaries. Under the said program, each child will receive 180 milliliters of sterilized canned milk every day for 35 feeding days. Other school division offices that will distribute milk to their respective beneficiaries include Zambales, Tarlac, Pampanga, Ilocos Sur, Abra, Pangasinan, San Fernando City, Kalinga, Tabuk City, Bataan, and Nueva Vizcaya. And here's another look at today's biggest stories. The Health Department reports a decline in the number of deaths due to COVID-19. Several lawmakers and senator bats for the easing of quarantine protocols among returning OFWs. Malacanang assures fair vaccine distribution in the country, including Mindanao. And the Commission on Human Rights wants the New People Army to pay for all the crimes it has committed. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day.